I was there. I don't have to listen to it.
This week's show because it was a disaster.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
And I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
I'm Tony Russo, no relation, and you're listening to Day Drinking on Delmarva, a podcast about life and culture on the Delmarva Peninsula. Todd drinks because he gets to live here. I drink because I have to live here. And this was a really good week for it. Actually, last week was a really good week for it, but we had this last week off. We also have next week off, just so I don't forget to tell you later. But for now, we don't have now off, and so we're going to go ahead and start the show. Each week, the show is sponsored by a local business we like, as well as the drinks we are drinking. My drink is water because it is a babysitting Tuesday, and I am on water.
I'm on water, but I'm on fancy water called Liquid Death. And at first, I thought this was ridiculous because it's just water in a can. But then you realize how many plastic water bottles you've had in your life. And so here's a company that's, doing some fun advertising, but also using a more easily recyclable product, less plastic. That's good. It's got like a skull on it. It's kind of ridiculous if you read the like their philosophy, which is on the can, and it's like murdering thirst. So I don't know. You can pretend to feel like a badass while drinking water and helping the environment, I suppose.
Well, I actually I've heard of it before. One of the podcasts that I listen to, Doug Loves Movies. He will drink that occasionally, and he always has a Liquid Death joke at the ready for that reason, because it is a cartoonish thing to call. But in the news recently has been, I mean, we've talked about it before. I talked about it when we were talking about conspiracy theories. That one of the real conspiracy theories that is a true one is that there's no such thing as plastic recycling. It's become impossible. It was never possible to recycle the kinds of plastics that we use. Mm-hmm. And that's actually, it was really just in the news in the last 2 weeks. So yes, if you must buy water from a store, buy Liquid Death. And of course, this week, our sponsor is Good Clean Fun Life Productions.
Yes. A business that we like is Good Clean Fun Life Productions. If you are listening and you have a business that you like or a business that you run, we should go ahead and say that we'd be happy to at least entertain the thought of you sponsoring the show. What you will get from that is absolutely nothing.
Yes.
And what we will charge you is absolutely nothing. So I feel like that's a win-win.
Yes, and I'll try not to say anything nasty about whatever business you're in. And sometimes it's dicey, and sometimes I forget.
Considering you have something bad to say,
if you have a topic, I have a negative take on it. I'm working on a story now that's just 3 different awful things that I've seen, and me just trying to say, like, why do I know these things and I don't have anything positive to say about them? And I've been working on it for a couple days, and it just gets darker and darker and darker. And I'm like, one of the lines I ended up deleting was, the odds are, if your life is shitty, it's just gonna keep getting shittier.
Like, there is no hope.
There is no hope. And so it's a little bleak to think of it that way, but bleak is just kind of my forte. It's nothing personal.
Yeah. No, it's I tell you what, you've been bleak on this podcast for the past 10 years, and it hasn't shaken my resolve. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, that's the get to live here, have to live here. It's we are the yin and yang of happiness, with me being grim.
I think it makes sense. But so our business is the sponsor. We do lots of things. We do websites. We do marketing for a small group of people. We like to keep our clients boutique-y so that we can have some close interaction with them. And then, of course, I am in charge of the media production making videos and seeing what the latest trends and styles are and trying to keep up on all of that. One of the things that I am doing right now is sort of reviewing, the past year. Fall is busy. Summer, of course, is like crazy busy. And as we're kind of coming into a little bit of a lull before the holidays, it's a good time for me to kind of reflect and take a peek at some of the analytics of some of our clients and try to make the case that what we are doing is of value.
Well, and as you were talking before the show, the case kind of proves itself. We were talking about social media, and this is going to be probably a social media heavy episode. But you were talking about you've just gotten some numbers back that show that it's working for what you're doing appears to be working. Maybe.
Yes. I'll get to the numbers in just 1 second, but one thing that I wanted to mention is I've been reading this book. I don't know the author, but it's The Sea We Swim In. And it's basically, I wanted to share with you because it is basically talking about the narrative, the importance of narrative in a data-driven world. And I've been really, really keen on it. People make buying decisions, what bar or restaurant they're going to go on, not necessarily data, but more, the story behind those places. And that's what we try to do. And it was just a nice kind of succinct or direct way of kind of encapsulating our philosophy for GCFL Productions. But numbers, I mean, they seem to bear out in the past year, or actually since 2018, we're doing like a 4-year span for the Starboard, which is of course a very popular place, Starboard Bar and Restaurant in Dewey Beach. We have focused on Instagram in the last 2 years, and we have created 50% more video posts. So, pretty significant in the amount of video that we're doing on Instagram. The platform that we've talked a lot about on the show that's pushing reels. Is it trying to be TikTok? Who knows? This is what's happening in the landscape of things. But doing 50% more videos, we've had a over 60% increase in reach of people. So that's, more people that are likely to come across our business, to follow. All of our numbers are up pretty significantly in those categories for the Starboard. And, it's like, just when you think a place can't get more popular, we're kind of proving that, well, it can, and we can take it online.
I want to give you more of the credit than you're willing to take, because you stuck, like, you've been waiting for this to happen. Like, you stuck with doing video, and you stuck with putting things on Instagram, and you waited for Instagram to kind of come to you. Whether it's trying to be TikTok or not isn't relevant. What is relevant is you have the skill to make the videos and the wherewithal to make the videos, and you are making the videos. I have none of those things. Like, it's so amusing that lots of people are making videos, but if you don't have a knack for it, then you have to hope more for a lightning strike than if you have a knack for it. Like, if you know how a video should go, then you'll be fine. And if you don't know how a video should go, then you have to wait to get lucky. And so this is really just work paying off, because you're good at doing video and have been. And so it's just a matter of Instagram deciding to show more videos can only benefit you because you already are making videos that people watch from beginning to end. And if people are watching them from beginning to end, then Instagram's going to say, well, more people will probably watch them from beginning to end. And that's kind of their thing. They want not just the engagement, but the entirety of the video, which is hard. I mean, I can't, this is the only video I can do. I can look at the camera and talk, and I can do all the cutting and things like that, but it doesn't have the return on investment for me because I'm not good at it. So it takes me long. like what takes you an hour takes me a week. Right. And so if I could do a good video in an hour, I would, but I can't.
Yes.
And almost nobody can, but they all still put things up on Instagram, which is why I don't go on Instagram anymore.
Well,
Instagram for me is bad videos that I don't like anyway. You know, bad videos of strangers.
Yes, and that time, the time savings of being able to produce a video, I've been trying to be better at, the researching and planning and and create and experimenting too, which is some of those things that you really have to do if you want to continue to grow and be relevant and I think also authentic. I mean, this is what we always go back to is the authenticity. And yes, you can do exactly what somebody else is doing. And sometimes you do that, but you can also do it with your own style and your own take. And I think that benefits any business.
My wife has been making collage for the last couple months, a year, maybe a while. She's been doing it a while. And we were talking about, the difference between making something last night and, reproducing something. And she was saying, well, the collages that I make, they're really just reproductions of other people's stuff. And I'm like, no, what you're doing is you have a vision for it. And I think that the difference between being creative and being not creative, and just doing what everyone else is doing is whether you have a vision for what you want to accomplish. If you want to accomplish looking like someone else, that's not a vision.
Yeah.
Right. But if you want to accomplish anything and you have these tools in your tool belt that allow you to borrow from, we were talking, for instance, about Patty Backer and how, you may see stuff like Patty's, but Patty has her own vision. Patty's a local artist, in case you're new to the show, and a friend of the show. But, she has a vision for what she wants to do. And, her types of characters may appear elsewhere, but not with her context, not with what she's trying to make, because she wants to make something new. She doesn't want to take advantage of something that she already thinks is popular. And I think that's the difference between making stuff and rehashing stuff.
Yeah. It's funny. It pops in my head, my hobby is woodworking. I used to be in construction. My hobby was making videos. I flip-flop those, right? And you're talking about Kelly and making collages. It's like, oh, just copying somebody else. It's like if somebody builds a chair, nobody's going to be like, wow, you built a chair. Like that's already been built. It's like, no, I built a chair, right? I mean, it's, it serves a purpose and it has that vision or that.
And you may have been inspired by a chair designer, Ethan Allen or Stickley. And those are all the chair designers I know.
Probably, Ethan Allen's great. I love that.
But the fact that you're inspired by them doesn't mean you're copying them. And I think that's the difference between knowing what's inspiration and knowing what's aping is a critical one.
Yes. Yes, we did. I can't remember if we talked about it on the show. We did have a pretty hilarious actual copycat of a social media post of a rival business, and I found it incredibly entertaining, and people thought it was when you're copying something word for word, and just trying to it was pretty fun. And I just took it as imitation is the sincerest form of flattery,
or the sincerest form of surrender. I had a similar. I have a boring story that I'll go through as quickly as possible. And it's a boring story because it's about the Federal Trade Commission. So I was covering a Federal Trade Commission event They're thinking of changing the rules around funerals. I'm working in the funeral business, covering the funeral news, things like that. And they wanted to make, the FTC wants to make funeral homes put their prices online, and there are logistical problems with it that the FTC either is too ignorant to understand or is not interested in trying to understand. And you know me, I am not let corporations do what they want.
Right.
We started this whole show by me saying, I hope I don't offend your company because I hate all companies, right? So from that perspective, for me to be against the FTC, legitimately, like I'm saying this on this show, I'm not just saying this in the newspaper that pays me to write about funerals. Like they are very wrong on this for lots of reasons. And one of the things that they were complaining about was that you can't order line items for funerals. And there's a good reason for that. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's boring as fuck. Trust me though. But my analogy was, they want people to be able to order funeral services, dominoes, like switching toppings until they get to the point of until they get the price point that they were looking for or whatever. It's just frankly not how funerals work, and we don't need to. But I have today in my email, I saw another funeral home news outlet using the pizza analogy. And now the FTC meeting was whatever 2 or 3 weeks ago, but my story came out Thursday, and it's like, oh wow, you just read my story and now you're going to carry this pizza analogy forward. And
right, in a very small industry.
Yeah, tiny industry. I mean, as far as news outlets, I mean, let's say there are 50. I don't think there are 50, but let's say there are very, very few. But for me, it was like a confidence builder. It's like, okay, well, when I know that now I'm in a position, because this was also a way more, not more popular, but more widely distributed. The magazine that I write for, the newsletter that I write, is it's not just very niche, but it's also expensive to get. So we don't have a lot of subscribers. I mean, we have more subscribers than, let's say, Day Drinking on Delmarva, but we don't have 10,000 subscribers to my newsletter. Right. And so for me to know that I can make those kind of waves made me feel good. Like I made you copy me because I had the best take on it. And I think with you, I haven't heard this story. We're gonna have it on the next show. Unless, was it like years ago or was it recently?
No, it's just this spring, and it was, it was like a hot. It was, I mean, simple story. It was a hot day. I took a picture of some friends of ours who had, tank tops on, like starboard tank tops, and I mean, so the first thing that came to mind is like, it's a scorcher out there. Make sure you dress for the weather, and then like mention that they're besties, and they used, it's a scorcher out there.
That's great.
And it was, I don't think that I've ever heard that expression, that sincerest form of surrender, but that, I mean, that's how I did take it. And I shared a story personally. I didn't do it on the business, but I shared a story of the side-by-side posts. Of course I screenshot the other post, and within within hours they had taken it down.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that's even more of a victory. It's like, you guys just look like idiots now.
Well, and if I think I've got a better than average guess at the business, and it's like, you could pay more to have someone copy Todd, or you could pay less to just have Todd do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. How about that?
And so my one cool thing that happened this week, and it happened to you too, you just didn't know it, and I mentioned it, but I didn't tell you very much about it because I'm going to tell everybody all at once, so I don't have to tell the same story twice. My one cool thing is I'm not among the people who are deleting their Twitter accounts. But before the whole Elon Musk thing, before the whole Facebook thing, I have been talking for a while about trying to back off of social media.
Mhm.
And my reason is pretty simple. They don't pay me and I don't get anything from them. You
Right.
know, it's like if your hobby was being a heroin addict. It's just like there's no upside to this.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
the best case scenario, you say something mean and feel better about it. That's the best thing that's going to happen on Twitter.
Right. Right.
And so I had
And they're making billions on you.
well, they're
you
failing to
making
make
things.
billions on anybody. They're taking
Well,
out
true,
billions
true.
in loans, you know, and
Yeah.
that's where it gets complex. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, I loved the little quick interaction between Stephen King, famous author,
Mhm.
and Elon Musk, famous rich guy, where, you know, Stephen King said, "There's no way I would pay $20 to keep my blue check," and Elon Musk said, "Well, how about 8?" And of course, the joke became, you know, we just saw a billionaire beggar writer for $8.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know what it really brought into sharp relief for many of us is like we work for free for Facebook and we work for free
Mhm.
for Twitter. And you know, once Elon Musk said that if you don't have a blue check, no one's going to see your stuff. I like, well, I was already thinking of working for free, of quitting this job where I don't get paid. And now I
Right.
certainly am. You know,
Yeah.
if I have anything to say, I'm going to say it to either people who like people cannot hear it on my own platform. And so I'd been dickering around with the idea of reviving one of my websites just so I could write whatever I wanted, whenever I felt like it. And if people wanted to see it, they could. And if they
Mhm.
didn't, then they could continue to not see it. But, you know, there's my engagement on social media is such that it doesn't really matter one way or another. You know, I'm not trying to sell a book or anything that,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I'm always trying to sell my books, but I'm not going to get a publisher based on my Twitter following. And if that's what matters, then I'm going to stop playing Twitter.
Yeah.
So as I was trying to find out like how I was like, maybe I'll go back to WordPress. Maybe I'll just get a Squarespace account, even though I still could, but Squarespace just kind of skews me out a little bit. They're not a sponsor of the show, obviously. And you know what? Even if they were, that's what I would say, which is why we can't have real sponsors. We can't take your money because I don't know what I'm going to say from moment to moment. And I don't want to steal from you. But anyway, and so Substack announced that they've added a chat feature. And
Mhm.
so you can now have conversations about the stories or about the podcast, or you can post pictures, behind the scenes kind of stuff, whatever, in your
Yeah.
Substack chat. And so if you're a listener of this podcast and not a subscriber to our Substack, please subscribe, because I know that we have way more listeners than we have subscribers, because we moved them over from the show. So like
Yeah.
our newsletter might have like, let's say 25 subscribers, but we have a couple hundred listeners.
Yeah.
Many casual, but still, if you're listening to this and you'd like to subscribe to our Substack, I'm going to start using that as my Twitter. So if I have something obnoxious to say about living on Delmarva, that's where you'll find it. If I have a really cool picture of a martini that I'm having, that's where you'll find it. And of course, in the show notes, instead of show notes, when there are stories and things I want to share or things I want to talk about on the upcoming show, I will post them on the Snapchat, on the Substack chat, so that we can have it at our hands and talk about it or not talk about it. I had done that. We did that on Facebook for a while. No, I did that on Twitter for a while.
Right.
Maybe a decade ago. I don't know if you recall. I'd be like, I'd tweet things and hash. And again, nobody saw it because nobody cares about, you know, me. I don't take it personal. And so I want to encourage everyone who's listening to take a look at that. And consider that. I mean, it's a lot to ask to download an app. I hate downloading apps, but If you want to purge your Twitter and join us on Substack, we have all sorts of fun that we can have. So
yeah, I think this is a new time for us. I think this is the potential for things like Substack or even Be Real, like some smaller new ideas to come into the marketplace that have less this notion of we're going to take over the world. It's just like, oh, we just think this would be better. This would be a fun or better user experience. I hope that's where we're at. And, and that people do find us. Somebody once said, guy, I think for Vox wrote a thing about Twitter. And he was talking about there's only three things that can happen. One, nobody sees it, which is kind of terrible. You put something up, not a person sees it. So you don't get, what the whole point of it is for somebody to see it and respond. Two, like you get it and a couple people respond and that's okay. Or three, it goes bananas and everybody sees it. And then,
most of them hate it.
And everyone hates it. And
and they all call your boss and try to get you fired.
Right. So like those three options, like 66% of the outcome is terrible for you. You either feel terrible about yourself because nobody saw it, or you get, absolutely shit on by complete strangers. So,
right. Speaking of getting absolutely shit on by complete strangers, we are out of time, but I do want to tell the story because I've been waiting for 2 weeks, and my hatred of Del Mar is just so all-encompassing. So once upon a time, it was Halloween. No town in America hates Halloween more than Del Mar. I speak about it every year. There's a new thing that proves that Del Mar hates Halloween, but this one takes the cake. So on October 31st, Halloween, there was, and this isn't funny. It's just a thing. There was a domestic dispute that went a little sideways. That went a lot sideways, and this man was holding his child hostage, someplace near the school. And so the first thing the school did was they're like, okay, well, let's let everyone out of school so they have to walk past that house to get home in case there's some random shooting going on there. And the second thing they did is said, and you know what, we should cancel Halloween. And then the third thing they did was said, never mind, to canceling Halloween.
JK.
But for those of us who aren't plugged into Del Mar, like me, I've really just so disconnected because it's just embarrassing to live here, and it's hard enough without everyone reminding me what a shithole this place is. And so we were all sitting there, and our block is one of the best Halloween blocks. I mean, it would be Berlin level if we had that number of people. Like everyone on the block plays, or let's say we have 20 houses, 18 of them give out candy. It's a good block. Yeah. And there was no one because the town decided to temporarily cancel Halloween after having the school children walk into a potential war zone. And this is what it's like to live in Del Mar. And the only real reason I tell this story, two reasons I tell this story. Reason number one, I want to call this episode something like Del Mar finds new and improved ways to hate Halloween, something like that. And two, I want to talk about it. So we're going to start threads. By the time you hear this on our Substack, there will be multiple threads about the multiple topics, and we can talk about all of them or any of them, and that will continue on. And it's going to be empty, and it's going to be mostly me just posting and then answering myself, and I'm okay with that. But if you'd like to join me, I think it'd be fun. So, and I also do it on my Bagel Manifesto, which is at bagelmanifesto.com. I started that. And again, it's just me posting threads and commenting on them. But the point is that at least I don't feel like I'm writing for someone else. Like, the Substack is all mine. All my subscribers are mine forever. Even if Substack closes, I can, like, when I quit Twitter, I lose all my followers, all, whatever, 800 of them, but they weren't listening anyway. So it's really not a huge loss.
Yeah.
But if I get to 800 subscribers, those will always be my subscribers. And right now I have like 150 or something on Bagel Manifesto, and they read my stories, and hopefully asking people to download the app is a big deal. And that's going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people. But hopefully, once, like you with the video, hopefully eventually people will download the app and participate in the thing. And we are right up against it, and we both have meetings in the next 10 minutes, so we're gonna call it a day there. I got nothing else anyway. How about you?
I got nothing.
All right, guys, remember, until next time, at the beach,
it's happy hour whenever you said it is.
Cheers.